I love seeing small businesses succeed, and I believe that success is a journey, not a destination. Think of this podcast as your weekly dose of inspiration, empowerment, and actionable insights. We're all about turning your one-day dream into a right-now dream. If you're ready to create the life you have always wanted, you're in the right place. Let's discover your unique talents and forge your path to success. It's not just about chasing goals, it's about embracing the journey and building a life that you love. Each week, I'll bring you conversations with experts on marketing, business, and a plethora of other topics that align with who you want to become. Whether you're an entrepreneur, creative, or simply someone on a mission, my goal is to provide you with the tools, stories, and a mindset shift to help you thrive. Buckle up, get ready to dig deep. Let's turn those dreams into gold. This is the Aurum Collective Podcast. I hope you all are ready to jump into the interview I have for you today. I am so excited to introduce you to my guest. He has been someone who has helped us at our venue, Clay, in more ways than I truly can count. He is an expert in his field. Justin is with Nuptial, a wedding venue insurance firm dedicated to ensuring that venue owners can rest easy at night, overcome huge challenges while knowing they're actually covered by their insurance. Justin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Becky. You're building me up here. I'm a little nervous.
Well, you truly do deserve it. You have helped us so much. So before we get into all of it, will you just tell us a bit about you, who you are, what you do at Nuptial?
Yeah, sure. So we are in Georgia. We're about an hour north of Atlanta. Have a wife and two little girls, and they're the reason for Nuptial. Basically what we do, our thing is just helping wedding venue owners make sense of their risk management needs. And when people say risk management, a lot of times they think of insurance. That's certainly something we do, but I think that's putting the cart before the horse, as they say. So I've been in some form of insurance for about 12 years. I just started on the retail side, basically independent agency. There are, I think, about 30 wineries within 25 miles. They wanted to start doing weddings. We had worked with them, and so that relationship budded, and they referred me to a lot of other folks. And I got some unique insight into how things work in that environment and just all of the different layers of business that's kind of inside one business. And so that unique insight led me to, over really the last 5 years or so, specialize in and only help one person, which are wedding venue owners.
Yeah, well, we need lots of help, so I love that. Now, I know that you have so many things that you could share with our listeners because I've learned about 1.5 million things since I started working with you. Wedding venues are places where our couples' dreams come to life, but I have learned, and probably most listening have learned, that it comes with a lot of unique risks. Can you tell us why it's really crucial for venue owners to have proper coverage and to really know their coverage?
Yeah. So I think the thing there would be, this type of business is very different from other businesses. I mean, your event, where your space is dependent upon everyone else that is there. So that is just not something that is well understood particularly by insurance carriers. In the traditional sense, what wedding venues are classed as is a banquet hall.
Mm-hmm.
And, a banquet hall is something you went to in 1970 that they made you food, and, you did a lot of, you might have had a bar mitzvah at, or, something like that. It's a totally different thing than a wedding venue, and a wedding venue can kind of comprise a lot of different things. You're going to have your couples, your vendors. You might occupy parts of that space in terms of an office. You also might occupy that space if you live on site. There also might be lodging on site that you have with the venue. So there are a lot of different things that all have to work together, and it's not an easy fit. And so I think, going back to my experience in the winery business, there are a lot of things going on in a lot of different businesses and entities and that thing that kind of work in concert, and same thing. And that experience kind of transitioned well. So that's why it's really crucial, is because if you're thinking about everything from a standpoint of a pyramid, like, your business is at the top of the pyramid, but if there's any blocks missing down below, it's going to affect you at the top. So everybody has to kind of come together, and it all has to be right, or it's not going to be right for you. Makes sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I know for me, being a venue owner, we had that policy that was for a banquet hall, and my agent was like, "This is good. Just sign this and you'll be set." And I truly had no idea about all the things that I should be thinking about. And then when I did start thinking about them, I was stressed about it. I was like, "Oh gosh, like I am losing sleep over all these things that could happen, and I don't know if I'm covered." And that was very stressful. So, not to stress anyone out, but can you share an example of a situation where having the right insurance coverage made a big difference for a wedding venue owner?
Yeah, and I have quite a few, but I
I'm
think the
sure.
first one, yeah, unfortunately, the first one that we had, and for whatever reason, I couldn't tell you, but kind of going back to the winery discussion, a
Mhm.
dry wedding at a winery.
Oh,
Why
yeah,
you
not
would
a good
have
idea.
that, I have no idea. But the winery's policy was that they gave 2 bottles of their wine to the bridal suite, like complimentary. They
Mhm.
had liquor liability, all, we had crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's there. And I guess, the bride did not drink. And so apparently one of the bridesmaids drank all of the alcohol. I mean, I
Oh.
don't know if it was all, but a lot. And
Yeah.
so they have a spiral staircase that comes down from the bridal suite, and it's
Mm.
it's photo op. And so the bridesmaid fell down the stairs
Oh
and
gosh.
hit her face on the
Mm.
bottom post and broke several teeth and cut
Oh
her
no.
face, lip, all that kind of stuff. So what ended up happening is her dad's attorney sent the basically a demand letter to the winery that they were going to sue them, all this other stuff, and that it was because that they didn't have any oversight on the service of that alcohol.
Mhm.
And so basically what happened there is her event insurance policy had to respond. So bridesmaid would have had to sue her friend, which normally is not the case, but that's something we help put into their contract, that
Mhm.
their event policy has to be first. It's not typical. I could probably count on less than 2 hands in 7 years the number of venues we worked with that their contract demands that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was one of those things where that's a little bit of a mental hurdle
Mhm.
for that bridesmaid to overcome. She didn't want to sue her friend, so thankfully that worked out for the best.
Are you drowning in client tasks? From contracts to communication, keeping up can be overwhelming. But fear not. I'm here to introduce you to HoneyBook, the ultimate solution for managing your business seamlessly. Say goodbye to stress and hello to streamlined workflows. With HoneyBook CRM, handling contracts, payments, and client services has never been easier. Join me and countless others who've discovered the power of efficiency. Ready to take the leap? Head to share.honeybook.com/Aurum and use code Aurum for an incredible 50% off for an entire year. That's right, half off for 12 whole months. Trust me, this is a game changer you won't regret. Visit share.honeybook.com/Aurum and enter the code Aurum, that's AURUM, for your exclusive Aurum offer. Yeah, those are the kinds of things that I started thinking about. We reached out to Justin and his team when we got our liquor license at our venue. And that was truly when I was like, oh, wow, there are so many more things to worry about. I mean, there's always alcohol at weddings and events, but once you bring that liquor liability in house, you have your liquor license, it just started feeling like, oh, there's so many things to think about. So that's a great example of why we need to
Yeah.
think through all the what ifs and have a plan. Now, I know venue owners listening, what are some key considerations that they should keep in mind when selecting insurance coverage for their venue?
So I think this question, it's really good, and it's good for me to illustrate why we're different here. When you go to someone who works in the insurance end of things like we do, a lot of times it's just I need insurance. Like, what
Mhm.
kind of insurance do I need? And so I think from my perspective, asking the right questions really important. And so, one thing you want to make sure and do as a venue owner is you want to ask the right question of, your vendors and your clients. You want to make sure that they're doing the right thing for you.
Yeah.
Same thing applies for a person who works in insurance. I need to ask you more questions than, hey, what are your insurance needs? We need to know about, what's the structure of your business? What's your relationship with your employees? What's your relationship with these vendors and your clients and that sort of thing? So what's really important first is having someone who knows what questions to ask. And from there, you can go into things to keep in mind. Like I mentioned before, you've got to make sure that what everyone else is doing on property is protecting you in the right way, not just your insurance. So the most important considerations are, first, what am I asking of other people? Because I want to make sure that what they do protects me first, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to pay for that. And so I think, secondly, the considerations would be, okay, does what I have actually protect me? Am the person I'm talking to someone who has experience? I can't tell you how many people that I talk with every day who their agent has no insight into this market at all.
Yeah.
And so they're just kind of shooting in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that many carriers do. And so having someone who is an expert is really, really important.
Yeah, that's such good advice. And that was exactly our experience. We had an agent who just really did not know how to classify us, didn't really know what kind of policy to get us. And it kind of just left us feeling like we were in the dark. And I honestly hadn't spent a ton of time thinking about it. I just kind of trusted, you're telling me what to do. Once we met you guys, you and your team, you're just so good at talking through what our specific venue needed. You asked all the right questions and really helped even bring it into focus for us. Okay, this is the kind of business we are running. This is what we need. And I love that you guys don't just put together a policy. You guys helped us with things like an employee handbook and contracts for our vendors to sign. But my favorite thing that you guys do is the certificate of insurance from our couples, which if you guys own a venue, you need to be getting a certificate of insurance from your couples. And I learned from Justin that what I was asking from my couples was really not covering anything. So Justin, can you tell us a bit about what
Yeah.
couples day of event insurance should be covering?
It's all about the question you ask.
Yeah.
So when you're a venue owner, you're going to ask your couples, hey, we need you to have event insurance, and can you get a policy with these limits and list us as additional insured? That is what almost every venue does.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that doesn't mean that policy will pay first. And so people don't realize that if their attorney, whoever represents, a friend or a guest or whomever who might be overserved or get hurt, they can go right around that policy and decide that your insurance is primary, your property that you may own or you may lease or whatever is also kind of in the crosshairs, for lack of a better term. Like, that's without you designating that in your contract and other places, it's not a guarantee that policy pays. So I think that's what your experience was you had no idea
Mm-hmm.
of that. And that's, from my perspective, that's your first line of defense. So why wouldn't I, as a professional, tell you, let's get this right? Like, this is such an easy conversation. It's such an easy implementation for you. Like, the only thing we have to do is make sure 2 sentences are in your contract and that your client is getting exactly what they need. So with that, it's going to basically funnel everything to one place. Like, we've
Yeah.
got a catch-all on the front end, so you don't have to worry about, hey, is this going to affect my insurance? Is my insurance going to pay? Well, it should. It
Yeah.
probably will. But we have a big bubble around here that is really hard for somebody to get through. How many times did your insurance agent ask about what your contract required and what the event insurance that you were asking for actually did?
Never. He never asked.
Probably zero.
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
never
that's
asked. I
yeah,
actually had brought it up the first time. I said something to him about we require all of our vendors to provide a COI and also our couples. He's like, oh, awesome, great, then you're good. And I was like, okay, great, we're good.
yeah.
But clearly we weren't.
Well, and that's, it's the thing about that is, and I'm sure he's a wonderful guy, and I'm
Yeah.
not picking on him or any
Yeah,
other
no.
agent at all. But the problem is they don't know. And when you talk to somebody who is trying to manage risk and not just sell you a policy and move on, that's what I'm here to do, is how can we look at everything and take apart some of these things and then put them back together in a way that you don't have to pay any more for,
Yeah.
but you are certain that you have better protection. From an event insurance standpoint, I mean, that's really the first thing you can do to help protect yourself a lot better.
Yeah. I mean, truly, the first time you told me that, I was kind of like palm to face, like, oh gosh, I'm so glad I didn't have to learn this the hard way.
Yeah.
And like that example you were giving of the bridesmaid's obviously not going to want to go after her friend's insurance policy. That feels way too
No.
personal. So it's just something I'm so glad we didn't have to learn the hard way.
To that end, had we not had those things in place
Yeah.
in their contract when that occurred, they literally could have just gone right around that event insurance policy
Yeah.
and sued our partner for
Yeah.
that. So, I mean, no
Yeah.
telling how much that of a headache that saved them.
That's huge. One of the things I have loved most with working with you guys is you make it super easy. Tell us some of the things that you guys do other than just, we'll get you a policy, that get really easy, like changing your contract, some of those things that you guys offer. Are you tired of wading through legal jargon, hoping your company contracts are legally sound? Say goodbye to the stress of what if and hello to Creative Law Shop contracts. We use Creative Law Shop's simple templates for our businesses. They are specifically tailored for creative entrepreneurs. Creative Law Shop provides the legal documents you need to succeed, from client contracts to operating agreements and everything in between. Creative Law Shop has what you are looking for. Don't let legal worries hold you back from turning your one-day dream into a right-now dream. Head over to shopcreativelaw.com. Enter code AURUM10 at checkout for 10% off. That's shopcreativelaw.com, code AURUM10 for 10% off.
There's a whole suite of things that we can do to help you manage risk. Like, how do we need to put some things off on your vendors, and how do we make sure that you're asking them for the right thing so that we funnel things toward them? The same thing goes for, let's just say, the bar setup, whether you have it in-house or out of house. What are you asking for from bartenders? So, do we need some sort of agreement between the bar service and the venue? The contract is a big one. Your best weapon as a venue owner is your contract. And, the thing that I see most is people just pick parts and pieces from what they find online, and they might get them to their attorney that doesn't specialize in this sort of thing. And their attorney's going to charge them for an hour to review it. And then they're like, okay, we've got a great contract. And that, while I understand that method, and there are a lot of good contracts you can find online, if it's your most important weapon to manage risk, we need to spend a little bit more time going through that to make sure it addresses the thing. So that's a part of what we do. I'm not an attorney. We work with one very closely. And, my job is to help facilitate that conversation, to give you the tools that you need. And, not obviously, you need to go back to an attorney to have them kind of bless it.
Yeah.
When we kind of figure out all those other things that keep you up at night, are hard from an administrative standpoint for you, does this certificate meet requirements? Does, this, that, and the other? When we can sort all that out, it makes the insurance conversation really easy.
Yeah.
And it just takes a lot of pressure off that. We don't have to have the mindset, well, I've got insurance for that. It's something we can handle in other places. And I think just me being very, very conservative on those type of things, like, if I can equip you with the things that you can control and you dictate the outcome, I would rather that happen than leaving it up to an adjuster who's, their job is just to reduce claims by 10% year over year.
Yes.
And from an automation standpoint, I mean, I think that's really important, like the client experience. So, particularly, we have some tools that help to automate some things that people really struggle with from a compliance standpoint, particularly the event insurance.
Yes.
So we can take that off your plate as well and kind of give you that time back, so you don't have to chase people down and look at stuff and, is this right? Is this what I need?
Yeah, that has been huge for us. And you guys just have done a great job of having tools, having them easy to access. But that's for sure one of our favorite ones is the couple's day of event insurance with your portal. And I mean, those of us who are in the wedding industry, we like things to be pretty and be functional and easy to use. And you guys have done a good job. You have blended your guys' company right into the wedding industry with the way that your systems work. And I know that certificate of insurance coming from our couple, it's so easy. And honestly, the switch over, I was like, oh, is this going to be hard for our couples to like switch over to this? And truly, we have not heard a peep from anybody. They just get the text message from y'all and they purchase it. And I get an email that it's done. And I'm like, wow, this is so great. And I know it's the right thing, which is awesome. Before I was looking at a piece of paper
Oh,
going,
good.
cool, I think this is right.
Well, I appreciate that. And we've had that there have been less optimal versions of this, but we've kind of over the years, you live and you learn. And then, I struggle with pretty. So
Yeah.
Jessamy is here to help me make things pretty and make them from a client perspective very wedding forward.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the things that we are very mindful of. Like we know relationships with couples can be very, very tense
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, and we know that there are sometimes needs that we need to be very soft with our messaging and
Yes.
very helpful. I think that's really important to make sure that we don't, for lack of a better term, wear out your
Yeah.
clients or anything
Yeah.
like that.
No,
So
I think that's a good point to make on that topic because I think we can sometimes worry as wedding vendors that we're like nickeling and diming people to death. One of the things I
sure.
do like is that as soon as our couples book with us, it goes through our CRM and straight to you guys. And so they get that text message right away. They just heard us talk about it on a tour and in their booking meeting. And so it's not this thing that's coming like way down the road 30 days before their event. And they're like, oh, like we have spent all of our money and now we have to pay $250 for insurance. That's really helpful that it kind of just comes right at the beginning. It is that soft messaging. We've never had anybody complain. So you guys are doing a great job.
Well, thank you. I
Yes.
appreciate that. It's by design. We want
Yes.
to do a good job. And if you ever or anyone ever listening to this has any issue, we're always open to suggestions how we
Yeah.
can do things better. So it's been a process that's evolved over a lot of trial and error over the
Yeah.
last 6 or 7 years.
Well, that's kind of how we all learn, right? That's good. Well, you guys are doing a good job. I would say we probably have quite a few listeners that are not venue owners or maybe not venue owners yet, or maybe they own different types of businesses in the wedding industry. What is maybe the most important thing you would say to consider when getting an insurance agent and getting a policy?
Anybody can sell you a policy.
Mm-hmm.
When you consider somebody else to help your business, you want somebody who is an advocate for you and not just, you're not just a number. Find somebody that you feel like really cares about you and your business. It's easy to buy things online,
Mm-hmm.
and my experience has been you get a pretty good feeling about people within the
Yeah.
first 30 seconds that you're on the phone with them.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have that kind of, okay, I think this person is legitimately wants to help us and wants the best for us. I think that's the most important consideration. And then, from that proceeding on down the line, knowledge. If you're in the wedding industry and you're a vendor and, you call somebody and they don't know exactly what you need pretty quickly, then you probably want to call somebody else. If they
Yeah.
say, oh, well, yeah, maybe we can do that, or, I'll have to think about it or get in touch with underwriting or something like that,
Yeah.
call somebody else
Yeah.
because it's their inclination to help you.
Right.
And because helping you means money in their pocket,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to want to help you. So I would say, from my perspective, like I said, find somebody who cares,
Mm-hmm.
find somebody who's knowledgeable, and then the rest kind of takes care of itself. If that person cares and is knowledgeable and, has been doing what they're doing for a decent amount of time, I don't think you have much to worry about.
Yes to all of that. Well, I know we have been so thankful for you and your team and the investment that you have made in our venue. So, is there anything else that you would add to that we didn't get to touch on?
Another thing in considering who to work with,
Mm-hmm.
anybody can sell you a product. And I think that's the fault of our industry a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
is because, everybody's made it so easy to buy something that you kind of lose the, okay, well, like I want you to know about our business. What can you actually do to help us grow as we grow for us to, have some flexibility so that we feel a lot better about everything. And then also, I think it's just a really transactional industry. And I think that's why people hate insurance and why it's boring, and is because it's so, I need a policy. Can you get me a policy? And then, when you have a problem, all you have is a policy. You don't have a relationship. And that's the thing that we try to shift that narrative. I won't be the guy who just sells you a product. I want to be intimately involved with your business.
Yep.
And we want to know that everything that we're doing is pushing the ball forward for you. And so you don't have to worry about, something comes up and somebody drinks too much, or your bartender wasn't trained the right way and they overserved somebody, and, this, that, and the other happened. Well, that might be the case, but, how valuable am I to you if I just sell you that product and I don't talk about all that other stuff? I think that's probably what I could add is, it's a process. It's not a product. And if you just want a product, you can go online and buy it somewhere. But if you want to partner in the whole thing, then find somebody who cares about your business and is knowledgeable.
Yes, that is so true and so good. And that's exactly what we've experienced. Where I have a question, I know I can email you and find out where. Before I was like, I don't even remember who is our insurance agent. So you definitely are good at creating those relationships. And I think that is good advice for anyone looking for an agent.
Could I ask you, if you looked back at yourself like a year ago, and from now, is there anything you could tell yourself before you knew us? Give yourself some advice, your year ago self to now.
I won't say this is across the board for everyone in the wedding industry, but I know a lot of people in the wedding industry tend to be more creatives. And that is definitely me. I'm a creative, more of the dreamer. And so when it comes to the stuff like insurance, our taxes, doing books, stuff like that, I don't really want to think about it. I just want to get the policy and not want to dwell there because it's not fun. It's not pretty. It's not the dream stuff. So I think if I could look back and be like, oh, now I have this different understanding. Take the time, dig in, Becky, take the time, look at what your insurance policy covers, get the information, know what you're asking for when you're asking for COIs. Because then you're not going to be in an awkward conversation with a couple who's like, well, why do we need that? What does that cover? And it's like, oh, well, that's actually a great question. I don't like looking at things like this, so I don't actually know. So looking back over the past year since meeting you guys, that it doesn't have to be this big, scary thing if you just take the time to find someone who will walk you through it, honestly, because it's not something I have the time or want to learn to do. Really, I just want to know it well enough for my business to do my job really well.
Cool. Well, I really appreciate you having me on, Beck.
Well, tell everyone where they can find you and book a call, get more information.
Yeah, sure. So it's nuptialrisk.com, or on Instagram, you can find us at Nuptial Risk. Email is hello@nuptialrisk.com. That's NUPTIALRISK. Those are the best places to find us.
Awesome. And we will link all of that in the show notes as well. Justin, thanks so much for sharing all of your valuable insight and your time with us today. I so appreciate it. I think you just became a better version of you. You finished another episode of the Aurum Collective podcast, and it shows. If you want more, head over to aurumcollective.com for show notes and discount codes from today's episode. If you want to keep the conversation rolling, join our community on Instagram and Facebook. All the details are at aurumcollective.com. Until next time, keep making your one-day dream a right now dream.